The topic of today's webinar is Grief 101, an agonizing relational rupture. I'm Dr. Nyasha Grayman, also known as Dr. Nyasha Grayman Simpson, and I'm a counseling psychologist by training, a licensed psychotherapist in the state of Maryland, and the owner and operator of Wisdom Counseling Baltimore, LLC, a boutique grief and bereavement therapy practice for African American Marylanders. But I'm also Nyasha, a bereaved mother. This is a photo of my sweet baby Isaiah and my husband Richard and myself as Isaiah was passing from complications related to necrotizing enterocolitis at Johns Hopkins Hospital. So I come to you talking both as someone who's trained as a clinician and someone who's been walking this grief journey for more than 10 years. How do we describe the ineffability of grief? We use metaphors. Metaphors like a vase dropping and smashing into a million pieces. Try putting that back together. Simply not possible. Grief impacts us at a pre-verbal level, before words, which makes sense when you think about the fact that our relationships with other people develop before we have the capacity for speech. Our hearts develop in the first trimester as embryos. Our guts develop in the second trimester as embryos, and our brains in the third trimester. And so grief speaks not through words, but often through these organs which are interconnected into a system, and it speaks powerfully. For example, grief may speak through the heart, through palpitations, through shortness of breath, through chest pains, and even through something known as broken heart syndrome or stress-induced cardiomyopathy. Now, you may be wondering, is broken heart syndrome a real syndrome? Yes, according to the American Heart Association, it is a real syndrome. Here's some of what they have to say about it. Broken heart syndrome, also called stress-induced cardiomyopathy, can strike even if you're healthy. Women are more likely than men to experience the sudden, intense chest pain, the reaction to a surge of stress hormones that can be caused by an emotionally stressful event. It could be the death of a loved one, or even a divorce, a breakup, or physical separation, betrayal, or romantic rejection. Broken heart syndrome may be misdiagnosed as a heart attack because the symptoms and test results are similar. In fact, tests show dramatic changes in rhythm and blood substances that are typical of a heart attack, but unlike a heart attack, there's no evidence of blocked heart arteries in broken heart syndrome. In broken heart syndrome, a part of your heart temporarily enlarges and doesn't pump well, while the rest of your heart functions normally or with even more forceful contractions. And researchers are just starting to learn the causes and how to diagnose and treat it. The bad news is that broken heart syndrome can lead to severe short-term muscle heart failure. The good news is that broken heart syndrome is usually treatable. Most people who experience it make a full recovery within weeks, and they're at low risk for it happening again, although unfortunately, in rare cases, it can be fatal. The gut. Grief speaks through the gut in the form of stomach aches, nausea, diarrhea, and constipation. And the profound relational rupture that comes with grief can also make us feel lightheaded, dizzy, give us headaches, and make us easily startled. Now, these are all potentially serious physiological symptoms. And so, if you're working with someone who is experiencing any of them, you do want to recommend that they be seen and screened by a medical professional, even if the symptoms emerge in the aftermath of grief or major loss. Assuming that the individual is experiencing a non life threatening grief reaction, there are things that you can do to assist, and those things, like the symptoms, involve nonverbal interventions.
It seems like you've been doing a lot of yoga.
Yes, I have. And alternate nostril breathing.
Well, I wanted to ask you.
Have you tried that?
Page 27 in your book, you talk about alternate nostril breathing.
Yes.
What is that? And dare you give me a demonstration
well,
of that?
I would highly recommend it.
Okay.
You know, I mean, you're supposed to shut your eyes. I don't want to shut my eyes on on national television. But you do hold and you breathe through one and you hold it and then you exhale through the other and you keep going. I can only say, based on my personal experience, that if you're sitting cross-legged on the yoga mat and you're doing it and you're really trying to inhale and hold it and then have a long exhale, it is very relaxing. So I don't know if you can do it in the middle of hurricane coverage, but maybe some other moments you can try it.
So that was our former First Lady and former presidential candidate, Hillary Rodham Clinton, talking about the use of alternate nostril breathing to help calm her anxiety in the face of her 2016 presidential defeat. And breathing, alternate nostril breathing, paced breathing, square breathing, these are all examples of nonverbal practices that you, as clergy or lay support, can work with a client, or not a client, but a parishioner who's struggling with grief and bereavement. You can practice them side by side. We first recommend that you yourself develop your own pre-verbal stress reduction and inoculation practice. That when you develop that, you are better positioned to help someone else through theirs. This can also involve joint practice of silent, gentle outdoor movement, walking. And through those things, you'll find that the gut, the heart, and the brain are co-regulated. Also, we recommend that you practice calm, silent companioning, sitting with people as they're experiencing their grief without trying to offer the words. Words in our Christian tradition are really powerful, but there is also a lot of power to be gained in the witnessing of the pain and the suffering